morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Tony Giorgio, and on behalf of Mayor Deblasio and Commissioner Bratton, we'd like to welcome you to One Police Plaza for our annual Police Department Medal Day ceremony. At this time, I ask everyone to please rise for the entrance of this year's Medal Day recipients. To begin the ceremony, please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Police Officer Karen Starden.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we've hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming. In the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thanks, Karen. Good job. Thank you, Officer Darden. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for our invocation by Police Department Chief Chaplain, Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass.
Almighty and eternal God, thou who controllest the destiny of all peoples and in whose hand lies the fate of all nations, great is thy beneficence in giving to our city the gift of the courageous police officers whom we honor here today. These finest of the finest make us so proud to be New Yorkers. We will always remember those brave officers who made the supreme sacrifice to make this city a better place in which to live. May their souls be bound up in the bond of everlasting life, and may their memory always endure in our midst as a source of benediction. We also pray for those wounded in the performance of their duty. Do thou support them upon their bed of illness, that they may rise with greater strength and a stronger faith in thee, for thou art a true and merciful healer. Finally, dear God, we implore thee to grant to Mayor Deblasio, Police Commissioner Bratton, and all the men and women of the New York City Police Department continuing success in their unceasing efforts to make this city truly a metropolis founded on justice and equity, where peace and security, happiness and prosperity, right and freedom will forever abide among us. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Cass. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank members of the police band for their musical performance here this morning. Thank you, members of the band. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce members of the dais assembled with us today. I would ask that you please hold your applause until all have been introduced. Seated in the first row and on my right, the Chief of Intelligence, Thomas Galata, Chief of Counterterrorism, James Waters, Chief of Transportation, Thomas Chan, Chief of Transit, Joseph Fox, Chief of Community Affairs Bureau, Joanne Jaffe, Chief of Department, Philip Banks III, the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, the Honorable William J. Bratton, the Mayor of the City of New York, the Honorable Bill Deblasio, First Deputy Police Commissioner Rafael Pinero, Deputy Commissioner for Equal Employment Opportunity Neldra Ziegler, Deputy Commissioner for Labor Relations John Byrne, Deputy Commissioner for Personnel Arnold Wexler, Deputy Commissioner of Legal Matters Douglas Maynard, Deputy Commissioner for Management and Budget Vincent Grippo, Deputy Commissioner Intelligence and Counterterrorism John Miller, Deputy Commissioner Administration Kathy Perez. Seated in our second row, the Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Queens North, Assistant Chief Dana Pizzuti, the Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Brooklyn North, Assistant Chief Gerald Nelson, Supervising Chief Surgeon Dr. Eli Kleiman, Chief of Patrol James O'Neill, Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce, Chief of Internal Affairs Bureau Joseph Resnick, Chief of Housing Carlos Gomez, Chief of Organized Crime Control Bureau Thomas P. Pertel, Police Department Chief Chaplain, Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass. Police Department Deputy Chief Chaplain, Monsignor Robert J. Romano. Deputy Commissioner for Public Information, Stephen Davis. Deputy Commissioner Collaborative Policing, Susan Herman. Deputy Commissioner Strategic Initiatives, Zach Tooman. Deputy Commissioner Management Analysis and Planning, Bill Andrews. Deputy Commissioner for Training, Ben Tucker. Deputy Commissioner Operations, Dermot Shea. Seated in our third row, the Commanding Officer of the Special Operations Division, Assistant Chief Harry Whedon. The Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Bronx, Assistant Chief Larry Nikunin. Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Staten Island, Assistant Chief Edward Delatorre. The Commanding Officer, Brooklyn South, Assistant Chief Owen Monahan. The Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Manhattan South, Assistant Chief William Morris. The Commanding Officer, Patrol Borough Manhattan North, Assistant Chief James Secreto. The Executive Director of Support Services Bureau, Robert S. Martinez. Counsel to the Police Commissioner, Edna Hanley Wells. President of the Captains Endowment Association, Roy Richter. President of Lieutenants Benevolent Association, Lou Turco. President of the Sergeants Benevolent Association, Ed Mullins. President of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Patrick Lynch, and President of the Detectives Endowment Association, Michael Palladino. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our day. We thank them for being here. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of the City of New York, the Honorable Bill Deblasio.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this extraordinary occasion, a time when we take so much pride in the men and women of the NYPD. I always say, though, any great event requires a great MC. Let's thank Lieutenant Tony Giorgio for all he does. I'm going to speak in a moment about our commissioner, as I like to do each time, but I first want to thank all the great leaders who are up here on the dais, our first Deputy Commissioner, Rafael Pinheiro, our Chief of Department, Philip Banks, all of our Deputy Commissioners, Police Chiefs, Commanding Officers, everyone who is a part of the leadership. Let's thank them again for their extraordinary service to this city. I want to thank also those who represent the men and women of the NYPD day to day through the labor unions that represent this workforce. They're all friends. They're all people we work with for the betterment of all. I want to thank PBA President Pat Lynch, Sergeants President Ed Mullins, Lieutenants President Lou Turco, Captains President Roy Richter, and Detectives President Mike Palladino. Let's thank all of them for what they do. Mainly, I want to talk about the people we're honoring, but I have to say, as it is always my pleasure to say, that this force is getting better every day. I've been involved in public life in the city now for a quarter century. I have seen the amazing progress that this department has made. I think year by year we get better and better, and we have the finest police leader in this nation making us better every day, and that is Commissioner Bill Bratton. Let's thank him for all he does for this city. This department is synonymous around the nation, around the world, synonymous with professionalism, synonymous with effectiveness, synonymous with toughness, and synonymous with innovation. Literally all of those ideas come to mind all over the world when people think about the NYPD. The respect with which this force is held around the world is extraordinary. And I have had leaders from around the country, leaders from around the world, one of the first things out of their mouth is they want to go and meet with the leaders of this department to learn from them. And that's something that everyone here should be proud of. And yes, you can clap for that. And it's particularly an honor for me to not only be in the presence of the men and women who do this extraordinary work, but in the presence of heroes who have taken that to the highest level, who have worked with all their heart, with all their soul, with all their skill to do things that for many of us would be unimaginable, but for which we are so profoundly appreciative. This city is deeply appreciative to all of you. And there's times when I speak from my own perspective, and there's times when I also speak from the perspective of all of the people. I can guarantee you this, There's 8.4 million people in this city, and on behalf of all of them, I express my gratitude to each and every one of you for being so exemplary in the service you provide. It means something to all of us in this city, and we thank you. There are so many amazing stories. I only want to mention a few, and this is with absolute and consistent respect for each and every one of these honorees, but it's sometimes helpful to show just a couple of examples of what people do every day across all elements of this force. One of them we no longer have with us, and he did all he could to serve this city, traffic enforcement agent Kalyan Ranasinghe. I went to his wake. He is recipient today of the Police Commissioner's Award, the highest award given to civilians. He gave his life to the job. He cared deeply. He loved doing the work. He loved serving others. He was 71 years old, but he kept going on. He loved wearing that uniform. He loved doing the work, no matter what the weather, no matter what the conditions. And he exemplified the high standards of commitment and duty that prevail in this department. He lost his life doing his job, but he did his job because he believed in the NYPD, and he was honored to be a part of it. There's another story I want to mention, and there's 12 officers today who are receiving the Medal for Valor, which is representative of the bravery and excellence of all the medal winners. But one story that really grabbed me, because I think it's the kind of thing that makes every one of us as New Yorkers proud. We are proud of our toughness, our resilience, our unwillingness to quit. And this story of one individual, I think, summarizes that. Officer Juan Pichardo. He was working an off-duty job in the Bronx, never expecting a moment like this to happen, when two men entered his workplace, pulled out a gun, tied up Officer Pichardo and two other employees. Officer Pichardo was bound at the wrists, and the would-be robbers held a gun to his head and demanded the combination to the safe in the store. Officer Pichardo refused to give them that information, was pistol-whipped, and while that was happening, managed to wriggle out of his restraints and fought for the weapon of the perpetrators. Shot in the leg in the process, he still overpowered the gunman and held him until backup arrived, provided a description that led to the apprehension of the second gunman. That is an amazing example of the courage of each and every one of you. Let's thank Officer Pichardo for what he's done for all of us. We've seen it time and time again. We saw it most distinctly on 9/11, when members of the NYPD and so many other first responders rushed into one of the most tragic and dangerous situations we've ever seen in this nation. We still know that we are losing good men and women who served that day, and in the rescue and recovery effort, we're still losing them due to the illnesses from that moment. And that includes 12 recipients of this year's Distinguished Service Medal, all selflessly braved the thick clouds of smoke, the toxic dust. Whatever was thrown at them, they kept working. And we'll always remember their valor and the sacrifices they made. It's a reminder of the challenges and the dangers the men and women of this department face every day. But we're also inspired by the heroism on display today. Each and every one of today's 47 medals carries with it an inspiring story. In each case, the individuals had to make a split-second decision. In each case, they did the things that everyday people can only look at with awe and admire, staring down the barrel of a gun and still fighting back, overcoming whatever adversity was thrown in their way. The courage, the wisdom, the quick thinking, something we can all learn from, something we can all take inspiration from. Last week was a very difficult week for New York City. We saw the loss of a young boy P.J. Avito, an attack on the young girl Michaela Capers in East New York. Community deeply distraught, deeply worried. And yet, as they felt that grief and that concern, what I heard from one after another member and leader of the East New York community was the profound appreciation for the way the NYPD used every resource, took every consideration to help the community, and quickly apprehended this horrible individual who attacked these two children. What I heard, and Commissioner Bratton, I've said this to you over and over again, was the profound thanks of people in the East New York community for the extraordinary efforts of the NYPD and that sense of relief that the NYPD got their man and we're all safer for it. I want to thank everyone in this department who was a part of that operation and congratulate you for your success. I'll finish with this. As we honor these extraordinary individuals, we think at the same time of the work you do every day, every one of you do every day. And you should be so proud you're keeping crime low. You're making this, once again, the safest big city in the country. And there's more to be done, but we have the resolve to do it. Better technology, better training, ever improved efforts that will continue to yield a safer and safer city. I thank every one of you here today on behalf of the people of this city. I congratulate with all my heart the winners of today's medals. You truly, truly represent the best of New York City. Thank you, and God bless you.
And thank you, Mayor Deblasio. It's now my pleasure and personal pride to introduce the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, the Honorable William J. Bratton.
I always like appearing after the mayor because I get to stand on the box that they roll out to accommodate his height. They roll it in, and so I get about 3-4 inches taller after I come up behind him. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for honoring us with your presence today, but also for your continuing commitment to the men and women of this department and the mission that we have to keep this city safe. You've been a strong supporter and leader of those efforts. And a special thank you to all the families, friends, and colleagues of those we honor today for being here with us to help us to honor them. The great British leader Winston Churchill once said, "Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities because it is the quality that guarantees all others." Each year at our Medal Day ceremony, we honor members of the service who have displayed extraordinary courage under great duress. And today we again do that. We honor them because their courage guarantees the other enduring qualities that the public has come to identify with the men and women of the New York City Police Department: honor, integrity, and sacrifice. Without these qualities, we could not succeed in our mission. As such, the courage of our awardees reflects proudly on the entire department, starting with the recipients of the Distinguished Service Medal. It is with the greatest sorrow and the deepest pride today that we present this award posthumously to 12 officers. Each is being recognized for his or her rescue and recovery work in the months after 9/11. These individuals labored at Ground Zero and the Fresh Kills landfill, searching for victims, bringing closure to families and loved ones, and helping to restore order to the city. They died as a direct result of illnesses contracted after conducting this work. In a ceremony last week, we added their names to the Wall of Heroes in the lobby of our headquarters. Today, we renew our promise to their families. We will never forget your loved ones. We will strive to honor them in everything that we do. The same is true of traffic enforcement agent Kali Anavatni Rana Singh, who served in our Transportation Bureau with great distinction, helping to keep the city's roadways and pedestrians safe. His vision is the vision that Mayor Deblasio has included in his Vision Zero, to try to reduce pedestrian and traffic fatalities to zero in this city. Tragically, he died in an accident last November while conducting his duties. We honor him today with the Police Commissioner's Award. The department was blessed to have him every day he was with us. Our next highest award is the Police Combat Cross, given to members who engage heroically in personal combat with an armed adversary. The 14 recipients of this honor confronted assailants in running gun battles. They exhibited incredible calm, marksmanship, and restraint, subduing dangerous gunmen on crowded streets while attempting to keep innocent bystanders safe. Our next award, the Medal of Valor, is given for outstanding personal bravery in the face of a life-threatening risk. The 8 recipients of this award made split-second tactical decisions that enabled them to protect the public from armed individuals who had committed murder, assault, and robbery. One Medal of Valor winner who served undercover also succeeded in purchasing a total of 254 loaded and operable guns, an amazing and harrowing feat. Whether among partners, squads, or an entire police precinct, policing takes teamwork and collaboration. Many of our proudest successes are achieved collectively. With today's unit citations, we recognize 11 groups that achieved outstanding success in 2013. They drove crime down to unprecedented rates, both in precincts and public schools. They made our subways safe. They solved the coldest of cold cases, broke new ground in dismantling crews, kept thousands of illegal weapons off the streets, and developed new and innovative processes for record keeping that helps to keep New Yorkers safe. One other group here today has also contributed to our success, and that is our most important group. That is our police families. By supporting these outstanding officers and our civilian members, you have supported the entire police department and the city. We will always be grateful to you for that. And to our medal recipients, today you receive the police department's highest honors. They are not given lightly. They are an exclusive recognition of your extraordinary performance. Wear your medals with pride and know that we are exceptionally proud to count you among our rank and among the heroes of law enforcement who have served the people of New York with the greatest skill and with the utmost courage. I'll close by paraphrasing a favorite quote of mine that I've used before with some of you. There are no great men or women. There are only ordinary men or women who, in response to extraordinary challenges, do great things. We honor you today for the extraordinary challenges that you successfully met and for the great things that you did. Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Bratton. The Police Department of the City of New York is honored today to present the following medals for conspicuous acts of bravery performed by members of the department and unit citations, recognizing various units in the police department for their exceptional performance during the calendar year of 2013. Our first award is the Distinguished Service Medal. This medal is awarded to those members of the service who have distinguished themselves by performing exceptional meritorious service to the police department and the City of New York. This year it is being awarded to those members of the service who have died as a result of long-term illnesses associated with performing duties under unusual hazards and demands in conjunction with the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. Will the family of Detective Thomas Weiner, Jr. please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Detective Thomas Weiner, Jr. Accepting the medal on behalf is his son, Thomas III. Will the family of Police Officer Frank Macri please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Police Officer Frank Macri. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his wife, Nilda. Will the family of Police Officer Karen Barnes please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Police Officer Karen Barnes. Accepting the medal on her behalf is her mother, Vivian. Will the family of Police Officer Richard Holland please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Police Officer Richard Holland. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his wife, Diane. Will the family of Sergeant Michael McHugh please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Sergeant Michael McHugh. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his mother, Nuala. Will the family of Police Officer Ronald Becker, Jr. please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Police Officer Ronald Becker, Jr. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his wife, Patricia. Will the family of Detective John Christopherson please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Detective John Christopherson. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his son, Johnny. Will the family of Detective Tracy Jakowski please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Detective Tracy Jakowski. Receiving the medal on her behalf is her husband, Raymond. Will the family of Detective Tommy Merriweather please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Detective Tommy Merriweather. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his son, Tommy. Will the family of Lieutenant Steve Coffey please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Lieutenant Stephen Chaffee. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his uncle, Tony. Will the family of Detective Carmen Figueroa please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Detective Carmen Figueroa. Accepting the medal on her behalf is her mother, Teresa. Will the family of Police Officer Francis Patone please step forward? Receiving the Distinguished Service Medal posthumously is Police Officer Francis Patone. Accepting the medal on his behalf is his wife, Linda. The next award is the Police Commissioner's Award. The Police Commissioner's Award is presented to a civilian member of the department for actions performed above and beyond the call of duty, including substantial risk of bodily harm, protection of persons, and other similar extraordinary circumstances. Will the family of Traffic Enforcement Agent Kalaan Ratni Rana Singh please step forward? Receiving the Police Commissioner's Award posthumously is Traffic Enforcement Agent Kalaan Ratni Rana Singh. Accepting the award on his behalf is his wife, Tamika. Our next medal is the Police Combat Cross. The Police Combat Cross is awarded to members of the service who have successfully and intelligently performed an act of extraordinary heroism while engaged in personal combat with an armed adversary under circumstances of imminent personal hazard to life. Will Sergeant Joseph Lafada and Detective Alan Fred please step forward? For their actions on July 19, 2010, while on patrol, the officers were pursuing a subject armed with a firearm. The subject twice fired upon the officers, who returned fire, striking the perpetrator, who was then arrested. Receiving the Combat Cross are Sergeant Joseph Lafada and Detective Alan Fred. Will Lieutenant Barry Degan please step forward? For his actions on January 26, 2012, while off-duty driving to work, the lieutenant pursued a masked subject he observed fleeing the scene of an accident. The armed subject turned and fired at the lieutenant from a seated position in his vehicle. The lieutenant returned fire, causing the perpetrator's demise. Receiving the Police Combat Cross is Lieutenant Barry Degan. Will Police Officer Devon Davis please step forward? For his actions on March 25, 2012, while on patrol and pursuing an armed suspect who opened fire on Officer Davis, the officer returned fire, striking the perpetrator, who was then arrested. Receiving the Police Combat Cross is Police Officer Devon Davis. Will Police Officers Giovanni Fini and Christopher Nieves please step forward? For their actions on April 7, 2012, while on patrol, the officers were in pursuit of a subject who 3 times during the pursuit turned and fired upon the officers. The officers returned fire each time, and the wounded perpetrator was arrested later in the day. Receiving the Police Combat Cross are Police Officer Giovanni Fini and Police Officer Christopher Nieves. Will Police Officer Eugene Donnelly please step forward? For his actions on May 4th, 2012, while off duty leaving his precinct, Officer Donnelly observed a male running from a park firing a gun. While attempting to flee, the perpetrator fired at Officer Donnelly. The officer returned fire while seated in his vehicle, striking the male. Receiving the Police Combat Cross is Police Officer Eugene Donnelly. Will Sergeant Robert Martinez and Police Officer Thomas Napolitano please step forward? For their actions on August 4, 2012, while pursuing a male who had just shot another person, the perpetrator turned and fired at the officers. The officers returned fire, striking the perpetrator, who was then arrested. Receiving the Police Combat Cross are Sergeant Robert Martinez and Police Officer Thomas Napolitano. Our next story involves officers being awarded the Police Combat Cross and the Medal for Valor. The Medal for Valor is awarded to members of the department for acts of outstanding personal bravery, intelligently performed in the line of duty, and at imminent personal hazard to life under circumstances evincing a disregard of personal consequences. Will Sergeant Latanya Williams, retired Police Officer Walter Lohr, Sergeant Keith Beddows, Police Officer Stephen Eckert, and Police Officer Rusty Garcia please step forward? And for their actions on May 27, 2005, while on patrol, then Officer Williams and Lohr were following two men who had just committed a robbery. They observed one of the men holding a firearm. The male turned and fired on the officers Williams and Lohr, who returned fire at this time. Officers Eckert and Garcia and then Beddows arrived on the scene, surrounding the gunman, and after a brief standoff, the gunman again opened fire on the officers. The five officers returned fire, causing the perpetrator's demise. Receiving the Police Combat Cross are Sergeant Latanya Williams and retired Police Officer Walter Lohr. And receiving the Medal of Valor are Sergeant Keith Beddows, Police Officer Stephen Eckert, and Police Officer Rusty Garcia. Will Sergeant Damon McCullen and Police Officer Albert Romano please step forward? For their actions on March 20, 2010, the officers observed the suspect shooting into a crowd, striking a male. The officers then attempted to apprehend the perpetrator, who then fired at the officers. Unable to return fire due to the large number of civilians in the area, the officers pursued the suspect on foot and apprehended him a short distance away. Receiving the Medal of Valor are Sergeant Damon McCullen and Police Officer Albert Romano. Will Police Officer Thomas Coatsart and retired Sergeant Paul Kerrigan please step forward? For their actions on August 8, 2010, Sergeant Kerrigan and Officer Coatsart, along with fellow officers Tedeschi and Brightman, encountered two men fighting over a handgun. The officers yelled for the men to drop the gun. When one of the perpetrators fired at the officers returned fire, striking the gunman. Unfortunately, Officers Brightman and Tedeschi were unable to join us today to receive their medals, which will be awarded to them on a later date. Receiving the Medal of Valor are Police Officer Thomas Coatsart and retired Sergeant Paul Kerrigan. Will Police Officer Juan Picardo please step forward? For his actions on January 3, 2013, while working off-duty in a car dealership, two men attempted to rob the establishment. The perpetrators tied the wrists of the officer and the other employees, and with a gun held to the officer's head, demanded access to the safe. The perpetrator with the firearm proceeded to pistol whip the officer. Despite this, the officer was able to loosen the wrist restraints and grab the arm of the perpetrator. While struggling for the firearm, Officer Picardo was shot in the leg. Despite the wound, the officer gained control of the firearm and held the perpetrator until other officers arrived. Receiving the Medal of Valor is Officer Juan Picardo. Our final presentations today are the awarding of unit citations to those commands which provided sustained high level of service to the people of the City of New York during the calendar year of 2013. The NYPD has long been acknowledged as one of the premier law enforcement agencies in the world, as Mayor Deblasio earlier mentioned. This reputation has been forged by hard work, efforts, and diligence of all the department members. Yet, as exceptional as all our personnel are, there are some units within the department each year who must be acknowledged for extraordinary achievements. These achievements are represented in a variety of unique ways and include remarkable crime reductions, innovations that enable everyday operations to run more efficiently, and the promotion of goodwill and cooperation with the general public. Accordingly, a unit citation is awarded to the following commands. Accepting the unit citation for the 79th Precinct is the Commanding Officer, Inspector Michael LaPetrie. Accepting unit citation for the 113th Precinct is the Commanding Officer, Deputy Inspector Miltiades Mamara. Accepting unit citation for the 122 Precinct is the former Commanding Officer, Deputy Inspector Joseph Veneziano. Accepting unit citation for Transit District 33 is the Commanding Officer, Captain Francis Giordano. Accepting the unit citation for the Central Records Division is the Commanding Officer, Director Nancy Brandon. Accepting the unit citation for the Cold Case and Apprehension Squad is the former Commanding Officer, Sergeant Daniel Chiarantano. Accepting the unit citation for the Firearms Suppression Division is the Commanding Officer, Captain Brian Gill. Accepting the unit citation for the Juvenile Justice Division is the Commanding Officer, Deputy Inspector Michael Nemoyton. Accepting the unit citation for Patrolboro Bronx Anti-Crime Unit is the Commanding Officer, Captain Albert Lindquist. Accepting the unit citation for the School Safety Division is the Commanding Officer, Assistant Chief Brian Conroy, and the Director of Patrol Operations, Director Ramon Garcia. And accepting the unit citation for the Warrants Section is the Commanding Officer, Inspector Stephen Hughes. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all this year's medal and awards recipients. And would everyone please rise for the benediction by Deputy Chief Chaplain, Monsignor Robert J. Romano.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we have come here today to honor the finest of the finest. As we bestow these medals upon these heroes of our department, we ask you to bless them for all that they have done and will continue to do each day to make our city a safer place to live in. Be with them and protect them in all they do. Bless their families, their spouses, children, and parents for all the sacrifices that they make for their loved ones' careers. Bless our mayor and police commissioner and all the members of the New York City Police Department, uniformed and civilian, the other heroes of this city who protect us day in and day out. Watch over them on and off duty. As we gather together today in freedom, we also pray for the members of our armed forces who fight for our freedom every day, many of whom are members of the NYPD. Be with them in their struggles and bring them home soon. Lord, the history of this department is chronicled by the names of our beloved dead that are emblazoned on the memorial tablets in the lobby of this building. They paid the ultimate sacrifice, and the living heroes of today continually walk proudly in their legacy. May we as a city be proud of and blessed for the men and women who serve us by wearing the uniform of the greatest police department in the world. May God bless our honorees and their families. May God bless our city and the NYPD. And as always, may God bless the United States of America. Amen.
Thank you, Monsignor Romano. Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude today's Medal Day ceremony, I ask that you join us in singing God Bless America, which will be led by Police Officer Micaiah Brown.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thanks, Micaiah. Thank you, Officer Brown. To our medal recipients, I ask that you join the Mayor and the Police Commission for an official photo on the steps. To our families, we invite you inside our auditorium for a luncheon. And to our audience, this concludes our Medal Day ceremony. Have a pleasant day and a safe trip home. Thank you.